Hello, it's me, and today I'm going to do my first cooking video, and we decided that because it's my first video I'm going to do something from my childhood. It's one of my most favorite breads in the whole world. It's Irish soda bread, and actually Irish soda bread is usually made with white flour, but I like more wheaten flour, so I'm going to make it with spelt flour and white flour. And it's a very simple recipe. Anybody can do it. I cook for seniors once a week, and I made it for them a couple of weeks ago. And one man came to me. He's from Iraq. He said, "I love this bread. Can I have the recipe?" So I gave it to him, and he told me yesterday that he'd made it at the weekend. It went very, very easily, and he loved it. So it's just flour, baking soda, and cream of tartar. This is, in Germany, it's called Weinstein. I don't think it's as easy to get as it is in Ireland. But if you don't get cream of tartar or Weinstein, you can just use, instead of 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, you can use 2 teaspoons. So we just mix everything together in this bowl. I've heated the oven to 180, and afterwards we're going to make potato bread as well, and I'm just cooking the potatoes. I just put a little salt in there. Just salt the potatoes. This is another very easy bread. So we'll just put 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, baking soda. And the ingredients, you don't have to be totally extremely accurate. You can, you can use a bit more flour or a bit. You have to see how much moisture you need, depending. So it's usually 450 grams of flour and about 400 milliliters of buttermilk. And I like to put a little butter in it to make it a little softer. It's a very, very cool and rainy day today. We had a little snow in the morning, and it's just the right kind of a day to get into your kitchen and get that bread going. I just love to do this. I remember my mother making this kind of bread, especially potato bread, and she'd take it off the griddle and we would just spread it with butter, and the butter would be dripping down our fingers when we were eating it. And these 2 breads, soda bread and wheaten bread, or these 3 breads, soda bread, wheaten bread and potato bread, are very traditional in Northern Ireland, and they're a part of the Northern Ireland, the most famous Ulster fry, which is usually traditional at the weekends on a Sunday. And it's sort of bacon and eggs and sausage and 3 kinds of fried bread. And it's usually only eaten on a Sunday because after you can't move, you're sort of lying around for the rest of the day. But you can just eat this bread toasted. You don't have to make an Ulster fry with it. So, and we just put the buttermilk in sort of slowly to see how much moisture it'll take. I think that's about 400 milliliters, but I'm putting it in just a little at a time. I nearly forgot the salt. It's very important. You need a little bit of salt in bread. And this bread is very good actually for people who don't want to eat a lot of yeast bread. People have been asking me, to have recipes without yeast, and this is the most simple one. And also spelt flour. If you take spelt flour, it's a lot. People who have a problem with wheat, it's quite good for them. So this is coming together now, so I'm going to have to get my hand in there and feel for the texture. The buttermilk that they used to use traditionally for this in Ireland was when they made butter, and what was left over was the buttermilk. And the buttermilk that we buy here is very thick and creamy, so you can also thin it down a bit with water if you want. So it's coming together quite nicely. It's a very nice soft dough. So we'll just put a little flour on the surface and just give it a bit of a knead to bring it together. Not too much flour. it's not going to look as smooth as any other bread that you make. It's quite a rough sort of a texture, but this is what people have been making in Ireland for centuries. And they used to cook it on a bastable stove over a turf fire. Unfortunately, we don't have those in Germany, so we just have to do our best with what we've got. So here you have this nice round. I'll just put all the rest of that together. There's something about the smell of this bread when you start to put it together that just really reminds me of home. My mother was what you used to call in Ireland a great plain cook. That means, you know, she didn't have any, you know, kitchen acrobatics, but she made wonderful food. She worked from the time I was about 4 every day, and she'd come home at night and she'd bake for us, or she'd cook for us. So I'm just going to sprinkle a bit of flour into this. And traditional with this bread is that you cut across in it. And I'm going to just brush the top with a bit of the rest of the buttermilk that's there, just to make it nice and moist. And then we sprinkle it with some oatmeal. And that's it. And we're just going to chuck this in the oven now. And it should be about 35 to 40 minutes. I will set my timer here for 35 minutes, and then we'll give it a wee look. So while that's in the oven, we're just going to get everything ready, and we're going to make potato bread. We're going to make potato bread now, potato farls. I've cooked the potatoes and I've drained them, and now we put them back on the heat and shake them until they are completely dry, because we don't want any moisture left in the potatoes. I've salted the water when I was cooking them, so we probably don't need any salt. And now we just put them through this ricer. Completely new today, so hopefully I have the muscles to do this. Potato bread is my absolute favourite bread from Ireland. And we have to let the potatoes cool a little bit, and then we will mix them with flour and put a little butter. We have the potatoes mashed with a little butter. And I just start adding flour. This is about 120 grams of flour. We just have to see, because you have to see, potatoes are different. You can't sort of generalize, because some potatoes have a lot of moisture and some don't. So you just have to kind of play it by ear and put in enough flour that you get a nice dough and it doesn't stick. This is also very simple to make. And I like to have it warm with some cheddar. But there is another recipe which I think I'm going to do in the next video, and it's called in the north of Ireland, in Ulster, it's called teddy apple, which means potato apple bread, and it's like a potato pancake. You make the dough and then you fill it with stewed apples, and that's a real treat. So I might just make that in the next video. So what we'll do now is we'll just put it onto this nice surface and put enough into it that we get a nice dough. You can also make this dough, you can put oatmeal in it. We used to call it purdy oaten. It's potato bread with oatmeal. There are a few variations, but I just like the plain one, or the teddy apple. That's also good. I should probably be singing something Irish, like "Oh Danny boy, the pipes are calling," but I'm not going to do that. Don't get your hopes up. This little roller is one that I brought from India, which is really great. It's very hot. And it's a dry pan, we just sprinkle some flour on it. And doesn't that just look lovely? Let's see if I can get this in some kind of a nice shape onto the pan. It's actually very big fowls, but you can make them small. I also saw somebody who was cutting them into like heart shapes and things like that, but you know, we don't want to go overboard. Right, so this is now, I'm going to turn it up to 7. Get these wee bits off here. And just let it cook for 5 minutes. And then turn it over. So that's the very simple potato flowers. And we didn't use all the flour. I think I probably used, that was when I weighed the potatoes, it was just over 300 grams peeled. And I weighed up 120 grams of flour, and I think that's probably about 20 grams, so I only used about 100 grams of flour. They'd been cooking for 5 minutes now, so we'll just give them a wee turn. Perfect. That's the way teddy bread is supposed to look. These little bits of flour on there, doesn't matter. This is without any oil or anything like that. It's just in a dry pan. You can sprinkle a bit of flour on it. And that is the way potato bread is supposed to look, except for these bits, I don't know where they came from. I think that's just from the dough. But we will eat them with everything else. Yeah, so that's our potato bread. We just need to give it another 5 minutes. And then my mother, when she would take the bread out of the oven or off the griddle, she would wrap it in a nice, clean Irish linen tea towel. Irish linen from Belfast. Actually, yeah, I wanted to get one where the Titanic was on it. You know, the Titanic was built in my hometown. And there are lovely little tea towels that say, the Titanic, built in Belfast. She was grand when she left here. But we know what happened. Our potato bread is finished. I've just turned it over. It was 5 minutes. And it has this lovely brown spots on it. On both sides. That's really how it's supposed to look. And I could just spread one of them with butter and just eat it now. But I'll wait until the soda bread is out of the oven. Okay, and we'll just put it on some nice clean tea towels. You don't get big fowls like that in Ireland. They're a bit smaller. And then we let it cool down like that. I think our wheaten bread is ready. I'm just going to see. It looks fantastic. And we'll just let it cool a little bit in this glass and then take it out. And as soon as it's cool, we're going to have some with butter. Now we have Irish potato bread and soda bread, and enjoy. Bye.